Well, they may be all done at the Capitol in Boise, but Idaho's elected leaders are far from finished in our nation's capital. Today's Secretary of State Phil McGrane took a seat at the table to testify in a congressional subcommittee about how Idaho handles its elections. Pretty well, as it turns out. And just after he stepped out of that hearing, Secretary McGrane spoke to Joe Paris about it.
A seat at the table in the nation's capital for Idaho.
My background in elections goes back to right when I got out of college. I landed a job as an elections specialist, counting ballots when we were voting on punch cards and training poll workers.
If you want to talk elections, Idaho Secretary of State Phil McGrane is your guy. He was asked by congressional lawmakers about Idaho's work to make sure only citizens voted in the 2024 election. It starts with voter rolls.
Our Idaho Transportation Department, Idaho State Police, and then most notably Department of Homeland Security. We ran the entire 1.1 million registered voters in Idaho through those systems, but then really dialing it into a case-by-case basis to narrow it down to 34 individuals who were non-citizens on Idaho's voter rolls.
Work like that earned Idaho a voice in a crucial conversation.
And Idaho had one of the most successful elections across the country. We've heard from the U.S. Election Assistance Commission, now Congress. I think our voter turnout was one of the big successes, as well as a lot of the preparatory work that we did.
Congress is weighing action to ensure only citizens vote in elections, an opportunity for people like Secretary McGrane to push for change at the top.
What would you like to see Congress do to make that more efficient?
First and foremost is invest in this database. There needs to be a database built with this purpose in mind, and then also to review some of the policies. I will say there are some really unique incidents we identified, and I know this is a concern to make sure both non-citizens are not participating, but also citizens aren't interfered with.
I can tell you for sure it's a lot more intense being here in Congress than it is being at the Idaho legislature.
So an exciting morning for the Secretary of State. He also spent his time in D.C. also meeting with different stakeholders and agencies. A little snafu, Brian, as they were starting to get rolling in the House subcommittee. They actually very suddenly said, and we're going to take a recess because the members are needed on the floor for an important vote. So Secretary McGrane and Secretaries of State from 4 other states, they actually had to wait there for about 90 minutes. Then they come back into session and they're told, okay, you had to cut your time from 5 minutes to 3 minutes. So you got the full experience there.
Now, to be clear, he said 34 non-citizens were on the voter rolls, but that doesn't mean 34 people voted in Idaho's election that were non-citizens.
Correct. And the whole point was that they were caught before the election, and so no non-citizens were recorded of voting in Idaho.
All right. Thank you very much, Joe. Well, if you